And so we are getting ready for our uh, last presentation session. So we are focusing this session on virtual humans and motion capture. And we have Michael Walsh, Gregory Bennett, and Cheryl Briggs. Thank you all for joining. Um, Gregory and Michael, you have presentations, correct? Let's start with you two, and then Cheryl has a video that I've got queued up ready to share once your presentations are done. So let's start with Michael, and then we'll go from there.
So hey everybody, my name is Michael Walsh. I should say howdy. I'm at Texas A&M University. I am an associate professor of practice here, and I am 2/3 visualization in the School of Performing Arts and 1/3 engineering. So I actually got recruited to come to Texas A&M to come run a large motion capture facility. And I'll play this video a little bit. So my lab is actually in engineering. It's not in performing arts. So we deal with a lot of Army and robotics and things like that. So one of the guys had the Boston Dynamics dog, so we captured him and threw him in Unreal. So this is some pictures of my volume. It's pretty large. It's 40 by 40. We run a Vicon system in there. So let me see. So I came out of the film industry. I worked over 15 years in the film industry, and I had the good fortune to work on a lot of very large motion capture projects. So I threw kind of all my motion capture projects together on this slide. So when I did that, I was thinking just between Narnia, Beowulf, and Avatar is over probably 5.5 years of my life into those projects. So, so yeah, like I said, so I put together a course on motion capture animation. We currently only have one. I'd like to teach two if I could get enough students. I've kind of struggled with it. It's finally in the catalog now, so I am getting a lot of students from all over campus now, not just through visualization. And I was just gonna talk about the class a little bit and kind of play a little reel. So the class, I do teach MotionBuilder in the class, as it is really the only commercially available package. So the first 10 weeks are instruction, just kind of, what are the motion capture databases? How do you work with motion capture? How do you animate it? I teach MotionBuilder, and then the final month, essentially, the students get to capture their own projects. So they each get 4+ hours on stage. They can bring in friends, they can bring in actors, they can direct, or they can suit up. And I want them all to create their own film working independently. And so depending on grad or undergrad, the minimums and the maximums are a little bit different as far as their film project. So let me just hit this. So almost all of the projects, well, from now on, I'm requiring all projects to be finished in Unreal. So this is a project that a graduate student worked on with metahumans and Gaussian splats as environments. But we kind of get, I get a little bit of everything. I mean, I think the undergrads generally come in with a little bit less experience, but it really kind of depends on the student. I'm usually very happy. I think the students, I mean, they love being on stage, but most of the class actually takes place in the classroom itself. And there's different reasons for that. My stage is actually about 15 minutes away from main campus, and it's kind of behind a secure area. So it's a little bit of a field trip to get out there. And it really kind of depends on how the semester's going as to how many days the students get to spend out there. This year we already had a snow day we got like no snow, but we had a snow day. So that was already a day out of the schedule. So it really just kind of depends how much time I have with them. This was a grad student project. So the requirements for the project, I focus, it's about motion capture animation. It's about editing. It's about, delivering a good product at the end of the day. I don't want them wasting time building assets. If they have I basically tell them they can get assets from wherever they want, as you know, just credit the sources at the end of the project. I really don't want them wasting time on anything other than the actual animation itself. So this was a student, he didn't know what to do, and he has a bunch of rap songs. So then he started rapping on stage. I'm like, this is your final project. You're going with that. I mean, the nice thing about Unreal is, you know, the projects obviously are elevated in their final renders and visual look. So we can get some pretty nice projects done in just a couple of weeks. I think this is the last one of the reel. I remember this student was a big WWE fan and found this model online. And so it's better with the theme song playing in the background. Okay.
Thanks, Michael. So that brings us to Gregory, who, by the way, thank you so much for getting up early in the morning for us, Gregory. For those who might not know, Gregory's at Auckland University, right? Auckland University of Tech. Our first session of this day had a presenter from Portugal, so we're working our way circumnavigating the world virtually here. So Gregory, go ahead and the floor is yours.
I guess my presentation is kind of focusing on one particular motion capture course that I teach, and it's a little bit of an outlier from our more industry-oriented or focused courses that I teach motion capture. For some context, we've been running a motion capture studio in our institution for about over 10 years. So students can do a motion capture minor, which is kind of 3 courses throughout their 3 years of undergraduate study, and it often is a great kind of complement to what they might be doing in their major, which is often animation, visual effects, or game design. Just again for context, introductory course, they get a full foundation in body capture. They produce a kind of a previs production using again provided assets. We have one course which focuses on facial capture, nuances of performance, and motion editing. And then we have a kind of a capstone project, brings together facial, body capture, virtual camera, and we stream this live into Unreal Engine. So they get a chance to sort of also have a bit of kind of a version of virtual production in there as well. And again, a lot of our students, we have Weta Digital in New Zealand, so it's a foot in the door for working on if they're interested in a career in motion capture as well, just to mention that as well. So that's sort of the aspect of the minor, which is very much industry oriented. As a kind of complement to this, we have one of the courses which I call visualizing motion capture. So this is looking at more experimental visualizations of human movement data as such. Students get to produce a 30-second sequence, and so I'll do a little breakdown of the kind of the course content for this. So it's a much more, whereas previously they're working, well, in the other papers they're working much more in terms of kind of group projects, working collectively. This allows them to really have kind of creative agency and reign, and they're working on individual outcomes for this one here. So this is very much influenced by fine arts, experimental film, video art, motion graphics. They're encouraged to experiment, to break the rules, to really explore the range of visualization tools, and really wanting to aim for non-figurative visualization. So moving out of that kind of realist, conventional kind of mode of filmmaking. So just a few kind of pointers here. We're looking at it allows us to introduce some great conceptual approaches. How do we start to think about the moving body in abstract ways? Relationship of the body to space, geometry, which is quite a nice analog to, again, how you can see kind of, again, abstract mocap data in the 3D space that they're working in. So we can look at historical antecedents and visualizations to this. So artists like Oscar Schlemmer, for example, how to represent the body is, say, geometry. Looking at the qualities of movement, so movement is trace and trail, and again, sort of, pioneers with this often in dance and mocap, and even pre-digital forms of this with the famous animator Norman McLaren, for example. Body as a volume. Again, so again, looking at alternative abstract ways that the body can be presented. The surface of the body, how that can be visualized as a surface or as an extrusion. And it allows for some formal explorations around abstract movement. So aesthetic formal concepts such as space, time, velocity, movement vocabulary, shape, texture, light as well. And thematic content, so what kinds of thematic expression are you wanting to create through your work, through mood, emotions, narrative, illustration, etc. And relational content, the relationship between one or more moving figures, relationship of the moving body to the virtual environmental space, maybe the moving body in a prop, the relationship to sound, music, etc. as well. It also means we can have a significant content around contextual research, so doing kind of a deep dive into historical antecedents, art movements, pre-cinematic examples. Of course, Muybridge and Murray here, with art movements such as the futurists, who are again very interested in this expression of velocity and the body and movement, etc. And of course, artists, both kind of historical and more contemporary as well. There's some great contemporary examples with artists such as or collectors such as Universal Everything or Tobias Gremler, etc. The other kind of plus, I guess, is that it allows students, encourages students to explore tools that they might not normally kind of explore within Maya. So Maya is our sort of main platform in terms of post-production. So dynamics and simulations, the Maya Mesh tools, sort of motion graphics related tools, in particles, fluids, in cloth simulation as well. So again, it's encouraging a really iterative experimental dive into these tools. We embed them with the basics, get them sort of on that journey, and then they can really learn to play and experiment with what these tools can do. So Mesh, the Mesh suite, and then simulation effects. And these are, of course, being able to get an introduction or to harness these tools. They can also apply them in their other if they're learning about them, they can apply them in their other areas as well. And a bit about, too, we're wanting to sort of staircase both sort of contextual research, but also methodology as well within a kind of iterative design process. So beyond just sort of pure pipeline, but looking really acknowledging the fact that there's not one finished quick solution, that you should be iterating and continuing to in that sort of iterative and feedback cycle is very important. And as part of the submissions, that they're submitting both their finished 30-second sequence, but also they have to do a making of video, so that really kind of exposes the work that they've done. It means that they are week by week having to really document their processes, things that are working, things that aren't, the mistakes, the happy accidents, all of that sort of stuff as well. So documenting technical experimentation, of course lighting, so they're learning about lighting, the virtual camera, and also the final rendering. So they do go to a final render with Arnold. So again, it's again a kind of low risk way of really dealing with the pipeline all the way through to that final render process as well. And we do have a showcase of our student work if you're interested on Vimeo, which we sort of add to each year. And just to summarize sort of outcomes, I guess it's giving the students that kind of real creative agency, so it's an individual rather than a group project, so it kind of complements the group work that they are doing in other areas. But the unlocking of new tools that they might not normally look at and new technical skills. It means that their show reels that are very important, and when they graduate, show some diversity, which is some of the feedback we get from industry. It's nice to see some individualism, and examples of quite individual creativity is there, and also conscious engagement with iterative design processes, and also conceptual development that's informed by kind of rigorous contextual review process as well. And that is me.
Fantastic. Thank you. What a wonderfully creative motion capture class. That's wonderful. Okay, I'm going to share my screen to share Cheryl's fast forward video.
Welcome to Studio 500, located at the Florida Interactive Entertainment Academy at the University of Central Florida, a state-of-the-art motion capture stage where education meets innovation. Under the guidance of Professor and motion capture engineer Cheryl Briggs, students at Studio 500 gain hands-on experience with the tools and workflows shaping the entertainment industry. From setting up hardware to directing live capture sessions, students take the lead, building technical expertise alongside leadership and problem-solving skills. Studio 500 stands out for its industry collaborations. Students work on professional projects with real-world clients, applying their skills to create impactful results in fields like video games and virtual production. At Studio 500, students bridge the gap between classroom learning and professional practice, preparing to lead the future of the entertainment industry.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for your presentations. Motion capture is definitely a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and I love seeing all of these different approaches put together. And it's I got to also give credit to attendee Ryan Yoel has been on top of asking questions session after session, and there's already a question in for you to address. So the question is, do you have any thoughts on the basically inertial suits, a lot of the more entry-level mocap solutions? All of these presentations were based on, having a really capable facility available for the motion capture. And so what are your thoughts on, the inertial suits and other entry-level mocap solutions right now? We can go around the same order as
Comment?
I was going to say, who wants to take it?
Yeah, let's go. Michael, Gregory,
can,
Cheryl.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gregory.
Oh, yeah. I do acknowledge that. Our institution, we've been very lucky in that the investment was in the really great optical motion analysis setup, and we're actually just placing that with a Vicon setup as I speak, as a sort of a new system, because the old system's about 10 years old. But the only because we were kind of wanting to mirror and kind of support what's happening in industry, we had tested inertial suits, over the years, and there's always sorts of technical limitations with kind of drift, I guess, etc. as well. So, but I also think whatever experience whatever you have at hand and what you can afford, and will give students the experience, and you can also customize your kind of outputs to the limitations or the possibilities of the available technology that you have. That's all completely relevant. So I think, but again, and it's tied to, again, the resources of your institution in terms of what they can invest in.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I guess if money was limited, I would go for one of the kind of lower end bodysuits. I've had a lot of students play with kind of, the markerless. I mean, if you've been in this business for any time, markerless motion capture has probably been at every SIGGRAPH going back to like 1999 or something like that. I don't know that's really gotten any better.
Yeah.
So I think
Does mechanical count as markerless?
yeah, yeah, it's going back. I actually just I did
Rotary
a
encoders on every joint.
history of mocap,
Yeah.
teaching that this semester. So anyway, that was part of my class. But yeah, I think, well, I mean, the reality is, look, we don't always have access to a stage. The students, they're very fortunate that they have access to this and we have access to this space. I mean, there's plenty of data sets out there, and it's really kind of about accessing the data you have and learning how to work with what you have, blending this stuff and animating on top. If you have the opportunity to, I mean, I think, Rococo is very interesting in this space. I mean, OptiTrack started off, with some pretty low end cameras, and look at them now. So, I think what they're doing is very interesting.
I started with a 8-camera OptiTrack. Was it OptiTrack? Yeah, really basic system, which kept, falling over, but it was enough for our first run of students, to, and also mocap is not just about capture. The post-production, the motion editing side of stuff is a big part of it, obviously, as well. So even just being able to work with mocap data is for animators, and to have raw data that you can apply to, you can retarget to digital characters and sort of work on that. That's a hugely useful learning experience as well, I would say.
Yeah,
Cheryl?
I think that there's some free mocap data that you can do a Google search and just start with the data and show them how to clean it up and apply it to characters. There's Mixamo, which also has a lot of free, I mean, it's like free rigs and free data. So I would start there. Then you're not putting any money into the system yet, and you're just getting a project or something or revolving around that. Then you can show your university, why you need this, and then have a better chance of getting funding to fit out a lab, or that would be the process I would go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, jobs generally, I mean, I was very fortunate that I worked kind of on both sides. So worked on stage, but also, animating or motion editing with data. I mean, the jobs really are generally divided up in one or the other, right? You're on stage capturing, you're working a stage crew, or you're an animator, a technical animator, motion edit, whatever you want to call it. You're kind of doing the back end. I think very few people actually get to do both.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point in that the back end, the editing of the data, sometimes like using Mixamo, okay, well that data has already been cleaned. Like there's also a little bit of a potential value to having a system that, maybe doesn't have ground truth optical precision, because, okay, well, now you're going to do a little more cleaning in certain styles. And that is a lot of work. And that actually brings up another thought in terms of asking is, do you find your students are arriving in their first motion capture class? Are they excited about motion capture, and does that become tempered based on the amount of data that they need to work on? Or are they, they walk into this room and, they've been working on a box at a desk all this time, and all of a sudden they're in this massive space with technology dripping all over the walls. So like, are they intimidated when they walk and walk in, and does that attitude change over time? So let's go reverse direction. We'll start with Cheryl and then come around to Michael and Gregory on this one.
Well, it's in a weird situation because I don't actually teach a motion capture class. I teach animation, and we do workshops on Fridays for motion capture. So it is only the ones that are interested in, and usually it's everybody in even the programmers, because I teach in a graduate game design program. They all show up because they want to learn, and then I end up with maybe like 4 or 5 that stick it out and get trained on the system and really then run. And then once they start working on client projects, everybody comes back, because then they realize, oh wait, I could get a job doing that, but by the end of the year, we go from like 70 to maybe 6 or 7 that really own, the space, and they can run it and they can do everything. So some of the projects, they don't even touch animation. They just deal with motion capture completely. We have been building a library of files. I've been working with the theater
program on campus as well. So we get the theater students in the stage, you know, suit them up, and they get the experience of having motion capture on their demo reels as well. So, you know, I'm trying to figure out what would be allowed to be put out there for free from our stage, because I think I could share a few clips with whoever is interested of raw data that, you know, just has been FBX export out of the system. So, you know, feel free to contact me if you're interested, animator@ucf.edu, and I'd be happy to help you out.
I will, I'll definitely have to talk to you about that. I want to do something similar, and then, you know, just kind of the legal pipeline of being at a university and how does this stuff get out the door. It seemed to get very complicated very quickly.
Yeah, we have a few sample files for download for clients. So I'm thinking maybe we can put a few extra sample files up there.
So as far as the classroom and the stage, yeah, I always like to get my students in first week, you know, of course, and, you know, suit up a couple people. And yeah, there's usually a lot of volunteers who want to be suited up that first time on stage. So yeah, they're pretty excited about it. And then like I said, for their own projects, I generally do a full week. So students can pretty much have as much time for that as they want. And then I encourage the students who aren't actively capturing that day to come hang out and be on stage. And like Cheryl said, I mean, there's a couple, you know, some don't care, some just show up for their time slot, but then there's others who are there every day. And those are the ones who, you know, usually end up employed at my lab. And, you know, and if they're employed at my lab, they usually, you know, will end up in industry. So.
Nice. Gregory?
Yeah, I'm sort of wrangling about 50, 60 students through each courses actually, so it's quite large numbers. Yes, it is a very appealing and it's a sort of strong recruitment magnet for our majors, our major in animation, visual effects, game design, and also students are quite invested in it because they will take it through often to their, well, some of them will take it through to their own capstone projects, you know, by their third year. But yes, I have to capture is actually fun and pretty straightforward. The retargeting, clean up retargeting, motion editing stage, of course, gets much more specialized very quickly. So I'm cognizant of how I lead them through that journey with the, you know, fully step-by-step resourced. They also sort of setting expectations up early and saying, listen, you're going to get fantastic results, but you have to really embrace this post-production process before you can start to get into that creative space beyond that, when you can kind of get into the motion editing and shaping, etc. as well. So so I'm finding it's pretty good because I think, again, it's a lot of students are seeing the value in terms of how it complements what they're doing for their major, and also we have a lot of them who are very focused on this as a way I can maybe get some industry work ultimately too. We, as I said, luckily just on our back door, we have a great motion capture visual effects, you know, studio essentially. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, all of you have touched now on how important and how much of a path to commercializing the skill set. You know, that this is that motion capture is very useful in industry in general, and it can be one of those paths, you know, that goes straight from graduation into working. And you know, I think with Cheryl talking about the, you know, can we get that data out? And I know that in my institution, for example, most of the software and most of the tools that the students are using in other classes is licensed educationally, and so is banned from any use in any kind of commercial project. But the mocap stage is one of those exceptions where every tool that we have in the mocap stage is now it's licensed commercially. Especially as like Unreal has developed quite a lot of the cleaning and retargeting and editing tools that we might have traditionally used with in MotionBuilder, and we still have to teach MotionBuilder because that is industry. But we can do the commercial projects in-house, and then also the fact that, you know, we were talking about the inertial suits. there are more and more places that are now like, oh yeah, we're going to use mocap because we can buy a suit for several $1,000s instead of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment for a full like, so mocap is getting used more and more. And so are you seeing that in terms of your students, in terms of engagement while they're still students and as they go out into industry? And I almost feel like there's an opportunity too for students to start building their own mocap libraries and potentially like putting them out on various marketplaces as a way of being able to commercialize what they're doing in class. Let's go around. Let's go through the loop again. We'll start with Cheryl and work around Michael and Gregory.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you to repeat that because I had somebody message me and I totally.
No worries. We'll get Michael and Gregory first and circle back to you.
As far as, whether students are, I think it really comes back to what Cheryl was saying earlier. I have, some students, I'm not, I'm always trying to gauge interest as far as some students are just interested, like I said, this is the first year my class has been in the actual catalog with its own number. It took a while because I was teaching it as a special topics class. And now, I had a lot of different students contact me to get an exemption to get in because they didn't have the traditional 3D background to come into the course. And they're interested, they're mainly gaming students, or gaming minors, computer science students and the like, who have been creating games. They've been in Blender and they're interested in the technology. I think some people are interested and some people are not, motion capture, I think, is always, Avatar blew up, but it's not character animation. It's a very different art form.
Yeah. And Gregory, I think you had mentioned that you have your course sequence is fully a minor degree program. So it's a minor. And yet you still have, did you say up to 60 students in these classes? And is that like per semester or over the course of the year?
Each course I run sort of 2 streams of about 25 students. So each one through each iteration of the minor is so you have about 50, 60 students going all the way through the 3 years of each year. So we're sort of rolling, I don't know, it might be 100 students all up through the year. So it is very popular. We have we do have a large major as well. So and it's quite appealing. I guess it's interesting. There's a sort of a spectrum of the value that students see it. The game students, will be keen on getting a database of game moves if they want more customized stuff, not using, relying on stuff like Mixamo, etc. We have animation students because then, again, when they're out in the industry, they may be given stuff to work on, which is mocap data based. So they're bringing their animation skills, and so to be able to recognize and to work with mocap data as well as keyframe animation is something that's a again a bit of can be a requirement in 3D animation. And then I think with Unreal Engine and more increasingly that use will stay with visual effects, and with MetaHuman, this is the excitement of being able to sort of marry mocap through into that sort of real-time rendering is again really appealing as well. So it's quite a spectrum of kind of use and value, I think.
Yeah. And so circling back to Cheryl, the original question was kind of noting that a lot of the other classes in these fields are able to take advantage of educational licensing of the software, which precludes those tools from being used in commercial work. But I think all 3 of you had mentioned at one point or another about engaging with industry, and I think your presentation in particular talked about doing commercial work.
For sure.
Yeah, because the mocap tools tend to be, no, you're licensed to use it, and yes, you can use it for commercial work.
And we do, and it's fantastic because the students get credit a lot of times before they even graduate. It's interesting with the university though, because we have certain different accounts that the money goes into, because we do rent out the stage, and with the cost of the stage rental to whoever's coming in, they get me and they get 2 students to work, and then anything additional, they have to pay extra. But that money goes into a certain account, and a lot of times the university just comes in and takes all the money without telling us. And you know, usually we try to like order new equipment and new suits and new stuff with that money before they do that. But yeah, it's definitely a lucrative field actually, and we're trying to grow it more, and then eventually maybe even just hire our graduates to work the stage with client base, you know, because Orlando, where I'm located, is growing. We have more and more game studios that are opening here, and so there is a need for that resource here in the Florida area. And our stage is pretty big; it's 30 by 40 feet. So it's and they've been doing, I think before I joined FIA to do this, they started this around 2008, I believe. So they had an older system of Vicon, but we do have the Vicon Vantage, and I'm hoping to upgrade to Valkyrie soon. So and maybe even expand into an LED wall, which would be really interesting if they would approve that. But I think is extremely beneficial and lucrative for the students. Our animators have to work in the stage. They don't have to get certified to run it, but they have to do projects in both keyframe and motion capture, cleanup. And those are the ones that do really well and get jobs pretty quickly after graduation.
So my last question.
Probably,
oh, go ahead.
I'll add to, yeah, I just forgot to mention, yeah, we have a similar situation. We have clients coming in, and definitely students, we can deliver to cleanup. MotionBuilder, we don't have the MotionBuilder license. The MotionBuilder stage for retargeting, yeah, we can't do. But I'll just sort of mirror the fact that that industry experience while you're a student is incredibly valuable as well.
So this has been fantastic, and so I one last question for all of you is, if an educator is looking at this and like, oh, I need to start doing some motion capture, like what are the considerations to think about that nobody thinks about? Like I watched all of your presentations, and myself, I'm asking, where do they keep all the props and stuff? Like your stages are all pristine and beautiful and open and expansive. And, basically the stage that I have is like, everything is stored up against the walls. Like it's all there and it gets dragged out. So that's, from my perspective, but I'm, if you heard of someone that was looking to start a mocap stage at their university or college, what is a little nugget of insight and advice that you wish someone had told you about, maybe in terms of setting it up and implementing that kind of thing? We can pick up with Gregory and do Cheryl and Michael.
Make sure that they will fund a full-time technician to run your facility. First couple of years, it was just me and to do everything, and a few student helpers. So that's very important, and also that you can have really good documentation of process and all of the pipeline, etc. for the teaching materials is very important. So that was yeah.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So I started back when I taught at the Savannah College of Art and Design. So that was like back in 2004 with a real early version of Vicon. And they insisted that a graduate student do all the training since, the faculty were teaching, and that he would train us after that. Instead, he left immediately because he got hired like the next day because he had the experience. So I went in and I had to like teach myself all of everything. And so I created documentation, and that really is key, is getting documentation. But coming to a public university, nothing happens unless it comes from some administrator's great idea. It's really difficult to launch anything that you want to do. So you kind of have to make them think that it's their idea, but we store all of our props, right? It's partnership and collaboration too, because we also partner with the film programs. Our MFA students, we have a sound stage connected to the motion capture stage, and our MFA film students use that stage to build out sets and props. So we also have storage and a loading dock and everything back there. So It's about space, and it's always about space at our university because we have 78,000 students and everybody's trying to grab your space. So it's about protecting your space and making sure that there is, enough facilities. And I think partnering like we did with the theater students as well and the theater faculty is getting as many people involved, because then the university sees that it's not just benefiting one program and one set of students.
Excellent. Thank you. And Michael.
Yeah, I think, I mean, any sort of lab it's always challenging, it's your lab and people look on and envy, but you have to raise money to keep things going, to pay for that tech probably. Having a full-time technician, as Gregory was saying, is obviously very important, somebody competent that you can hopefully pay enough money to keep them on and kind of, have that retention. It's is difficult, right? And because you're teaching, and then it's like, are you running a stage, or are you teaching? You can't do everything at the same time. It's just, there's not enough hours in the day. So my hot tip, though, I'll give my hot tip. My hot tip is have a washer dryer installed in your stage. That's my hot tip. Got to have a washer dryer to wash those nasty mocap suits.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
Because the first stage they're in, I had to bring the suits home every night and wash them myself, bring them back. So we have a mocap spare area with a washer and dryer.
Hopefully with a fast cycle, because nobody wants to wait around at the end of the day.
Oh, that is honestly, that is the biggest takeaway, I think, for mocap. We lucked out in that the fashion department is directly above us in our building, and so they have a wet lab that they use a washer for doing dyeing and all of that. And so the mocap suits are black. They were worried, like, can we borrow your washing machine? Like, oh, I don't know if you want to use the washing machine. We use it for dyeing. It's like, we're putting black suits in there. And yeah, so that's definitely the thing that no one thinks of. And as there's planning for a new building, that was one of the like we need a washer dryer next to this room. That's great.
You were lucky our fashion department wouldn't allow us to use theirs. We had to get our own in the end. And going through university bureaucracy to get a washer dryer installed was interesting. So, great tip.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Michael. And really, thank you for all the information and tips that the three of you have shared in this session. This was fantastic. I don't know if you had noticed, but this has probably been the most active segment in chat, that particularly on topic segment. The chat was exploding, and people are talking about the video to mocap solutions and inertial solutions. So there's a really great conversation going on there. So definitely an inspiring session. So thank you all.